Whether you are internal to government or delivering public programs or services with government dollars, chances are you are in or quickly moving towards an outcome-based model. So, what is outcome-based performance management anyways? If you've been in the world of work for any length of time, you are probably comfortable with the management part. It's what you've been doing forever, and you're probably pretty good at it. You manage a whole bunch of resources that allow you to do your work: staff, budget, capital. You make careful decisions about these resources so you can be as efficient as possible. Let's call these resources your inputs. You manage a whole bunch of work activities, the things people do every day. Depending on your program, perhaps you're writing policies, developing training programs, researching, counseling, brokering partnerships. Whatever you do, the what you do are your activities. Activities are often laid out in your annual performance plans, contracts, or operational plans. At the end of the day, all that active work that you and your staff do all add up to the products, programs, and services that you offer. If you were tasked with building a brochure to inform the public about what you offer, you would likely list your outputs. So you have inputs that enable your daily activities so you can offer the desired products or services to reach your target populations. There's nothing new here. When you are actively managing your inputs, activities, and outputs, you likely set goals and targets, and you manage towards them. Throughout the year, you collect data to measure your results. How are we actually doing? You strive to understand your performance. Where are we right now compared to where we need to be? Why are we seeing these results? What's working? What's not working? From there, you develop improvement plans and adjust your activities to keep you on track towards your goals and targets. Continuous improvement. These management skills that you've been honing forever are exactly the same skills that you will require in an outcome-based performance management model. Good thing you have this great foundation. So let's move to the outcome-based part. Many outcome-based policies are built upon logic models. In fact, logic models are required of many government and funding bodies, whether your program or service is internally facing or externally facing. They're helpful when trying to understand outcome-based performance management, so let's start there. In a nutshell, a logic model is a simple, linear picture of your program, initiative, or intervention. It shows the logical relationship between your inputs, your activities, your outputs, and the changes that are meant to happen as a result. We already covered the inputs, activities, and outputs. The outcome part is new. What do you expect to actually change in the world as a result of your program and services? Although logic models are usually built backwards, starting with the end in mind, it is helpful to think that these inputs are used to do these activities so that we can offer these programs, products, and services so that we will have this intended impact or outcome. Outcome-based management means that goals, targets are also being set around the outcomes that you intended to see, and you measure your results. Just as you do with your inputs, activities, and outputs, you are constantly looking at your performance. Where are we right now compared to where we want to be? Why? What's working? What is not working? What needs to change so that we can influence our outcomes? Although there are many variations of logic models, they typically have 3 levels of outcomes that go by different names. Names like short-term, intermediate, and long-term, or immediate, intermediate, and ultimate. Don't get hung up on the names. You just want to make sure that you understand each level. The first level represents the first level of change that you expect. When people attended your learning event, what changes are you expecting in their knowledge, awareness, understanding, or skills? When people read your research paper, see your campaign, participate in your program, what changes are you intending? How would you know that these changes have happened? How would you prove it? This first level has to happen before you can expect the second level. The second level are changes in people's attitudes, perceptions, and acceptance, which leads to behavior, involvement, compliance, and action. At the second level, your target audience is actually doing something with the knowledge, awareness, and understanding and skills that they got in the first level. Isn't that what it's all about? What good is it for people to learn something if they don't believe it and apply it? How would you know that your people are acting? How would you prove it? The third level are big picture changes. Enough people are involved, acting, complying, or behaving in a certain way that social norms are changing. There are sweeping changes across the intended audience that reflect the intent of your programs, often found in your mission vision statements. Let's look at a simple example. This is a program whose mission is to help newcomers to Canada find meaningful employment so that they can become self-sufficient contributors to Canadian society. With their inputs, they work very hard and are very busy. They provide employment counseling, run job clubs, work directly with employers, build mentorships. There was a time when the funder of this program only wanted to know how they spent their money, how many workshops they ran, how many employers they contacted, how many newcomers they served, and how many mentorship matches they set up. But what if they spent all their money, served lots of people, ran lots of workshops, contacted lots of employers, made lots of matches, but newcomers were still not meaningfully employed at the end of the day? They got lots of thank you cards and lots of testimonials from their clients, but nothing was changing. Is this program successful? The problem is, evaluations, audits, and program reviews are way too often saying the same thing. While there's lots of activity, programs, and services, too often they are not adding up to change. The programs are running but not having their intended result. Something needed to change. So logic models have us clarify the specific outcomes we expect to see as a result of our programs and services. In this example, as a result of the programs, they expect to see that newcomers develop job searching skills and that employers understand the value that newcomers bring. But this increased awareness, understanding, and skill is not enough. So building on this knowledge, newcomers apply their skills and get jobs, and employers embrace newcomers and hire them. When this happens enough, we will end up in a Canada where newcomers thrive and contribute economically, socially, and culturally in a society that is inclusive. That's the long-term outcome that we're working towards. So outcome-based performance management has you set goals and targets around inputs, activities, and outputs, and perhaps most importantly, your outcomes. In this example, the performance targets around activity and outputs include 500 newcomers served, 200 employers served, 100 mentorship matches, 2 workshops, and an 85% program completion rate, less than a 5% lost contact rate, and a factor that measures how hard to serve the clients are. Done well, this activity will generate results and secure ongoing funding. However, if this activity does not generate the intended outcomes, then we need to invest the dollars differently. How will we know if all of these inputs, activities, and outputs are achieving the outcomes? Again, we set goals and targets. In this case, it is required that 85% of participants demonstrate their job searching skills and that 85% have an employment plan and portfolio developed. We are also requiring an 85% satisfaction with the learning at this time. Next, it is required that 69% of everyone who enters the program secures employment, and they have to keep that job for 3 months. After all, how does it help anybody if they lose their job right away? We are also targeting that 10% of these newcomers go into further education or training. All of these things can be measured by the program, and measured they must be. Ongoing data collection, monitoring, and analysis help me understand if I'm on track. If I'm not, then I will immediately aim to understand what is working and what is not, enabling me to course correct my activities and my outputs until I start to see the outcomes that we desire. This is an ongoing process, managing my program to outcomes. Funders will also monitor outcomes at all levels, making sure that dollars are spent efficiently and effectively. Outcome-based performance management. Whether you are delivering your programs internally to government or externally to the public through direct delivery or as a service provider organization, outcome-based management is a requirement. Your stable funding and growth depends not on the activities that you do, but on the outcomes that you achieve. An outcome-based environment, how you deliver your programs, is also critical. Every hiring, training, program design, customer service, and IT decision that you make influences your outcomes. If your customers or clients are not happy, they disengage. If your staff are not happy, they disengage. When people disengage, you do not achieve your outcomes. Nothing that you do is neutral. Are you ready for outcome-based management? How can I help? I'm Sarah Delicate, and I get it.